All right. We're ready. Let's get started. All right. So I'm Chris. Thanks everybody for coming, even though you have to listen to me since Rocky set it up that way. So I used to work at Facebook, and they had these motivational posters all over the place, and I used to think these were really stupid. But I started thinking about this one and like, what would I do? Because most of my life, I've been super afraid what everybody thought I was going to say or do. And I really been thinking a lot about this poster specifically. So this talk is me trying to do what I would do if I wasn't afraid. And I'm super afraid, but we're going to roll through it. So agenda, who am I? I'm going to do a brief story of like why I'm talking about all this stuff. Thinking about problems, and we're going to think about life problems using InfoSec, because we're all InfoSec people. Life undocumented, life APIs, and then all the rest you guys can read. It's going to get weird. Here we go. So I don't want you to believe anything in this talk. There's one section I want you to believe, but for the most part, I want you to do your hacker thing on all this material. So I don't want you to believe it because it worked for Chris or like just because. We all take things and beat up on them and try them. I want you to think of all this shit as like GitHub repos. I'm going to try to tell you why I think they're cool, and I just want you to play with them later. Because that's what we do, right? Because sometimes people push some shit on Twitter and you're like, oh, this is awesome. And then you play with it and it doesn't work, but you don't know that until you actually try it. So just think about doing your hacker thing on all the material. And there's a Google Doc at the end that has references to everything I'm going to talk about. So, don't feel too overwhelmed. So this is me. Highlight of my life last year was like checking out the Antimatter Factory. It wasn't as cool as it was in like the books, but, nothing blew up while I was there. And that's our ProdSec shirt, which pretty much sums up ProdSec. It's me. I think most of you guys know me. I've worked a bunch of places. I've done a lot of red team work, purple team work, and then at Uber, it's kind of been a hybrid purple-blue role. I did a lot of responding to, oops, I clicked on this stuff. All I really want to say about this is it's been interesting, really interesting, working for two companies that people fucking hate. And it's given me a lot of like time to like think about and like really say, well, how do my morals and ethics affect, a company that I really can't tell the CEO what to do? So just something to maybe, I don't know, stick in the back pocket, but it's something I think about a lot. And my neighbor works for Customs and Border Protection, and it really took a lot not to go yell at him. But then I was like, everyone yells at me because I work for these guys. And anyway, I appreciate y'all laughing because I'm super nervous. All right. So, here's me. So most of you guys and girls know this one. So father, husband, hacker, friend, red teamer, purple teamer. This is all stuff that if you follow me on Twitter, you know. Right. Here's others that you may or may not know. Like, so I'm an Army vet, if you didn't know. I'm kind of a picky eater. I love EDM. And like I spend all my bonus money on watches. So like you guys can ask me about my moon watch later if you're super interested. Or, dust watch from the Earth if you don't believe the moon landing happened. Other words, moody asshole. I think most people know me that know these too, right? Know it all. But I was like super grumpy professionally for most of my career. And that I used to really take pride in like everything pissing me off and everyone's stupid. I found every reason to be grumpy. So just sit on that one. We'll come back to grumpy a lot. Here's others that most of you don't know. So you are now all my woo-woo friends. All my computer friends are now woo-woo friends. I'm down with I do meditation. I'm a law of attraction practitioner. I'm a hypnosis client, and I've done a lot of past life regressions. I was super depressed a couple years ago, and I'm still recovering and getting through that, and like Reiki master. So what I want you to take away from this is don't be, you can be, I'm down with weird shit, so that's good, but, I don't want you to believe in any of this. I want you to think about, oh man, rather than like reading the first result of Google and just deciding I don't agree with this or I do because it's science or not science, try it, right? We all try things, right? I want you to try stuff. Yeah, that's what I want out of that. So I'm adding a new one today. I'm going to be ambassador to the universe for all of you. But a quick story. I'm going to have to read my notes on this one. I don't want to forget stuff. So, I was depressed, still getting over it, right? So, I was at DEF CON in 2016. Was anybody at like the big pool party at the Artisan? Nobody. Fuck. Anyway, there was this awesome cool party, like Chris Nickerson had rented out the whole hotel. It was only cool people at this hotel. I was probably the most depressed and loneliest I've ever been. Surrounded by people, we're having this amazing party. I just realized that I had become super unhappy. Before that, I'd been doing this was like prior to Hillary and Trump getting elected. So I was doing all these Google searches about Hillary and the Antichrist and Putin and World War III. I've been buying prepper supplies. I was pretty convinced that this was it. We were done in. Sorry, trying to read all this. So I realized I had a problem. I was having super rage things, and I just didn't want to do it anymore. I'd achieved most of my life goals, and I was 40 years old. I achieved everything. I was like, am I really going to be running Nmap at 40, 50, 60? It seemed kind of like a depressing outcome. Sometimes still does. Anyway, so I realized I had a problem. So the one thing I do want you to believe is if you're having a problem, go see a doctor and ask for help. I thought I dropped 1 million hints and no one seemed to get them. So you're just going to have to come out with it and be like, hey, I don't feel well. I need help. Because I dropped so many hints that I thought and no one seemed to get it. So after a few close calls, I went to the doctor and we got ready to do the thing you do when you're depressed. But I'd also been watching some of these woo-woo videos and saw that, past lives can sometimes be giving you reasons for why you're unhappy or having problems in this life. And I said, okay, I'm trying to experience things. Let me try this past life thing. One of my fits of rage in doing bug bounties, someone had gotten a free pen test thanks to Twitter. And to kind of make up for that, they gave me enough money to do a couple sessions. If you want to know about how that went, I'm happy to talk about it off camera. But the result of that was the hypnosis practitioner exposed me to some of this material. And then I did my hacker thing, which is get super OCD on it and just want to learn everything. So I pivoted from there. But yeah, that's a lot. All right, cool. We'll go. So I was depressed. I had this thing. It helped me get through some of that. The hypnosis and the other things helped me understand kind of my place in the world and why I was having relationships and why I was having weird, I have money issues. So why I was having issues with money, despite basically doing pretty well. So that's how we got to this material. Hopefully that wasn't too much of a detour. But the other thing I learned when I kind of talked about this on Facebook was a lot of us aren't happy. So Amanda has talked about this. There's tons and tons of Twitter things about it. We're paid to think about the worst case scenario. And then a lot of times we're just bummed. So, I started to realize hey, this happens to more than just me. A lot of us make plenty of money and we should be happy, but we're not. So, why is this and how can I live better? So, do some definitions, right? So anytime we talk about writing code or doing other things, we got to define things. So what's happiness? So the big one here is it's a state of well-being and contentment. Sorry. Totally didn't start my clock, so I have no idea where we're at. All right, you can do it, Google. Oh my God, everyone's worst fear. All right, so what is happiness? So something I was always taught that it was something that I had to achieve by doing what I love instead of being shown I can love what I do. Everyone defines it differently, and your individual happiness is dependent upon your chosen thoughts and emotions. And it's not set in stone. You can change it as often as you wish, which is super awesome because you don't ever want to get locked into the thing that I thought was awesome yesterday being the thing I have to think is awesome today or tomorrow. So a quote that kind of goes with this that I like, Mike Dooley's a motivational speaker. So what if the word work was changed to dance with life, and instead of being viewed as an alternative to fishing or a way of paying your dues, it was seen as a chance to meet a parade of new friends, discover your own untested potentials, unpolished gifts, and open your awareness for abundance to come into your life. Man, that sounds awesome. That sounds like way better definition than my dad gave me for work. Right? He was oh, you just got to work to make money. It sucks. And I thought that way for a whole lot of time. I wasn't supposed to enjoy what I do. So Mike Dooley has this giant matrix. It's called the Matrix. And it takes a whole book to explain this chart. So I cut out a whole bunch of this. But what I want you to focus on is these things in the green, these kind of more abstract things are the things that you should kind of be focusing on. And the things on the right are very specific things. And they don't always lead to left. So the chart flows from left to right and not right to left. So what that means is if you kind of make your end result of life happiness and you get to define it how you want, happiness is composed like these like the Fantastic Five: livelihood, abundance, health, relationships, and appearance. And all this shit over here has to come with, if you focus on having like livelihood, that's what you do for a living, you're going to have like a good career. You're going to work with people that you like. You're going to do all these other things. So the whole book is about focusing on the stuff on the left and these more general things and less on the specific things. Focus on the stuff in the middle. All to achieve all those other things on the right have to be components of that. So what's abundance? I've said that a couple times. So Derek O'Neill's like a wellness expert. It's like the essential meaning of abundance is that you're solidly happy with who you are and no external event or situation, whether good or bad, can add or subtract. Man, all right, that's okay. Mike Dooley, like abundance is just for money for him. But this guy or this person, Daryl Anka, channels Bashar, and I like this one. This one I've really attached to is abundance is the ability to do what you need to do when you need to do it. What do you guys think about that? Who can do that? Who can like basically do what they want when they want to do it? Nobody? All right, one. Awesome. Cool. Think about like abundance. Thank you for participating. Think about abundance being this, right? This is what I've said. Okay, it's not about me having $3 million in the trading portfolio or something like that. It's, do I have a life or do I have a job or do I have enough money in the bank to take the vacation when I want to take it? Or, pay my bills or buy a new car when the other one breaks, right? It's not about having X amount of dollars, right? That X amount of dollars or that Tesla or that whatever is on the far right. Those are details. So as previously mentioned, it's a byproduct. It should be a byproduct of happiness if things are working the way you are. If you're not abundant, you won't be happy. If you're not healthy, you won't be happy. Like those don't work together. And the other thing on this one is like, you could probably think about getting off that want-need hamster wheel, right? Like social media and the media makes you think you need all these other things. Like I need the new iPhone, I need this other thing. What do I want and what do I need? Fuzzing. This comes important later, right? So fuzzing, quality assurance technique used to discover coding errors and security loopholes in software, operating systems, or networks. So I want you to like put that, stick a pin in that, security loopholes in software and networks. Hacking, I think everybody knows that, right? What is everyone, here's what, I don't want to ask what everyone loves about hacking. Here's what I love about hacking. I can show up somewhere, I don't know what's going on with something, but I know I'm going to figure it out and go fuck them up, right? So I don't know how I'm getting there. Like I might have to go grab a new tool off the internet or off GitHub or whatever, but I know that over time I've accumulated all this knowledge and all these tools that I can get systems and networks to do things that weren't intended, right? That's basically our job, right? Is we make systems do things that people weren't intended. You guys agree with that? All right, cool. That's what we do, right? So, all right, cool. Systems, right? Two of these, right? A regularly interacting dependent group of things or a group of devices, artifacts that form a network, especially for distributing something or serving a common purpose. Right? We probably all know this. So, who's had pen tests like this where it's like, show up, they've got like eternal blue everywhere and it takes like 5 minutes and you're DA, right? Yep. Those aren't really much fun. Most of them probably look like this, right? And life can maybe start to look like this, right? Like, I see where I started over there on the left. I can see the exit point. I think there's an exit point. All right, yeah. There's an exit point on there. You can navigate through this one. This is how I think most pen tests are. I've definitely shown up and it looked like this. And you're like, I got to do this in 3 days or 5 days. Like, I'm not going to get this done. My life always feels like this, or at least used to. So then someone shows you something new, right? Like Benjamin Delphi and Mimikatz. Like, who pen tested before Mimikatz was a thing? Nobody in here pen tested? All right, Tom has. All right, a couple of people. Like, before Mimikatz, it was actually a little hard to get passwords out of shit, right? They didn't just like spit out to you in Metasploit. So he released this tool and it didn't add functionality to Windows. That what he exploits and what he abuses was always there. It was how Windows did its thing, right? Same thing for Stephen Fuhrer. Like he revolutionized the way we do exploitation with reflective DLL injection. And then like Casey Smith shows us like Microsoft has given us everything we need for an implant since the beginning of time, right? right? We didn't need Metasploit ever, right? How many times are you like, oh, I could have totally just used all these utilities that I never bothered to look at because I thought they were dumb, right? Right? So the idea is like everything we needed was already here. And it really wasn't until someone showed us all that there was this other tech we could use that it became useful. So that's interesting to me. Like, what else is already here that I just don't know about? So I've been saying the universe. What the hell is that? I don't know. It's the force. It's my, your, our reality. There's a whole bunch of other words. But it's really what I want you guys to think is it's the largest system that we get to play with. Our reality, I want you to think of our reality and everything around us is a system that we get to play around with. We get to fuck it up, right? And who's better to fuck things up than us? So, and we haven't been taught all the rules and we haven't been given the manual, right? We think we have. Mom and dad gave us one, but they didn't have a good one. And my dad definitely didn't have the hacker mentality that I have. So let's think about this as a system, right? So we don't have the rules to the game, and I'm going to try to tell you today or show you today some of the undocumented APIs and things that exist, right? So we can start to use these to just do things differently in our lives. Sound interesting? All right, cool. You're still here. Man, that's good. All right, so I want to hack that shit. That's what I do. So we're here. I don't know. Let's hack. So I want you to think of all the other stuff that's coming up as like GitHub repos. I'd said this. I'm going to try to explain in a slide or two like why it's cool. Just star it. Come back. The wikis are pretty good. So it's fairly well documented if you go look for it. And I just want you to do your hacker thing on all this stuff. So, all right, here we go. So the all is the one and the one is the all. We all come from the universe. We're all connected. Do you know if you're made of hydrogen, you were a star at one point? A couple of people know that, right? We were all stars billions of years ago. That's kind of fucking hardcore if you think about it, right? We're all joined together. We're all made of the same things. We're all 99% of the same, right? So we should be focusing on all of us together and not me versus anyone else or me versus the person that was born on the other side of some line on a map. Or someone that just looks different from me. We're all the same. So pseudocode kind of goes with this. I'm going to do really bad pseudocode through this. We have this function, all is one is all, always returns true. And I apologize if some of that doesn't compile in an IDE or doesn't work. It might, but I doubt it. Just outed myself for being really bad at Python. So if like a quote that goes like, embrace the oneness by seeing yourself in everyone you encounter. Rather than having judgmental thoughts about those of whom you regard as separate or different, view others as an extension of yourself. This will diminish self-importance and unite you with what Lao-Tzu calls the primal virtue. Letting go of ego-dominated thoughts lets you sense the oneness that you share with others, thus giving yourself the opportunity to feel a part of the all-embracing Tao. And Tao was on that list of like one of the things you could call the universe. So it's all that shit around us. And that's from Wayne Dyer. What do you guys think about that? Seem all right? Yeah, cool. Hey, I'm not any different than all of y'all. I'm down with that. What you put out, you get back. So the idea of this is the world reflects back the thoughts, attitudes, beliefs, and experiences we put out. So that's not to say that when anything bad happens to you, you asked for it. That's sometimes just bad shit happens. And you come into contact with people that are unawake. But in the course of your life, if you make it a huge summation, what you put out, what you get back. And so if every time you change jobs, because I'm surrounded by assholes, I'm going to go to this new place. There won't be a bunch of assholes here. And all of a sudden, all the assholes show back up. You might be the guy that's making the assholes show up, right? That was me. Everywhere I went, everyone was pissing me off. I was like, well, maybe it's just because I'm pissed off all the time. And so like my personal story that goes when I was trying to put this into my life is I used to carry a gun all the time. I wanted to be prepared when something happened. So eventually as I thought about this, I started to say, well, if I'm always thinking about finding myself in a situation where I would need a gun, I might actually find myself in a situation where I needed a gun. I escaped my army time without having to kill anybody, and I really don't want to do it now. So I put that thing away, and I don't think about those things anymore. I'm always in a constant state of fear. I'm always in this constant, man, that guy might have a gun under his coat, or, someone might come in here and shoot us all up. I doubt it's going to happen, right? So again, I don't want to put those feelings out, and I don't think they come back when I don't think about them. At least that's what I'm trying. I'm still fucking with it. You exist, therefore you matter. So no matter what anyone tells you or how you feel, you're here right now. The universe thought enough of you to put you in a human body right here on Earth. The universe doesn't make mistakes. You matter. You're made from stars. Right? So in this case, you want to say, anytime I start feeling not worthy, I want to replace that with a feeling of being worthy. Yeah. So, quote for that, life provides certain opportunities and choices, yet we allow ourselves to receive, achieve, and enjoy those opportunities only to the extent that we believe ourselves deserving or worthy of them. Right? So, you should start to think about, like, you're worthy of whatever you want to do, you're worthy of. And no person on Twitter or Facebook or anywhere else really has any say in that. Our default state is supposed to be happiness and joy. So, you're going to experience challenges and contrast, but that's part of the process. We're not supposed to live our lives in fear and misery. We're supposed to thrive. Plants and animals, they thrive, right? They don't struggle when winter comes to spring. They don't struggle to bud and grow leaves. We're all the same. We're made of the same things. Why would plants and animals have it any different than us? Right? So the idea behind this one is change your expectation of life and see what happens. And then it doesn't mean you get to eat grapes all day, because who learns when the pen test is super easy? Nobody, right? It's boring. I've quit jobs because I had the same week every week. It's when you have that contrast, when things are challenging, do you actually grow? I've never learned anything when it was super easy. When I had to sit down and figure things out at night, that's when I was like, oh shit, look at this. And, you get to be awesome. So there's the pseudocode for that, right? So you have this perspective, and then for everything in life event, that event is added to the happiness, and then you have this new perspective, right? Everything is fundamentally neutral. So in this physical reality, all situations, circumstances, things, people, or places are actually neutral. They're neutral props with no inherent built-in meaning, and that meaning the meaning we assign to those neutral things determines how we feel about them. It's all colored through the lens that you look at things. Anybody's had Sociology 101, it's all the lens you look through things with, right? And the experience itself isn't necessary to change, only how I feel about that situation. So this happened to me at work. I hated my job when I first started. I was like, man, all we're doing is having incidents all day. This is not what I wanted. And after I thought about this for a while, I realized it was actually everything I had asked for in a job. How do you build a security team? How do you grow a security team? How do you go from having no security to some security to good security? And I realized that I was just putting a negative spin on all this. Oh man, the world hates me. It always happens when I'm on call or whatever else. If you change your perception of a situation, you can change how you experience it. I don't know if I gave a good explain that really well, but all right. So miracles are easier to see looking backwards. It's far easier to see a good thing that came out of something. You can't see it while it's happening, but the universe has your back. So I got two stories for that. One is there was this really cool team at work, and I wanted to be on it. They were doing super awesome stuff. They were doing hacker shit. And I was like, man, I'm super hacker. Everybody thinks I'm awesome. Why can't I be on this team? For whatever reason, I never made it to that team. That team actually ended up making it on the news for doing a bunch of stuff they weren't supposed to do. Did you guys see that? Some of y'all saw that. It's easy to find. So never in my life have I been so happy to not be part of the Cool Kids Club, right? I thought, if I had been part of that, I would have been talking to lawyers or feeling like I was getting fired. So the universe, I was real pissed about it for a long time, but then I realized that the universe was looking out for me. The other one was, I was in the Army, and I'm a West Point graduate. West Point graduates are supposed to do 20 years in the Army. We were doing, I was a lieutenant, and we were playing flag football for PT, and we're halfway through the game, and this guy just randomly fucking tackles me. Puts my shoulder into the ground. Really fucked me up. So, fast forward 2 years later, I had a shoulder injury that had been getting continually misdiagnosed. I had tendonitis. So anybody that was in the military knows everything is tendonitis. This give me Motrin. And I eventually became so frustrated with it that I left the Army. And I really didn't understand why that had happened to me, right? Like I'd been accepted to go teach at West Point, and the rest of my career was mapped out. And I was like, why did this happen to me? So like, here's a gnarly picture of my shoulder. What ended up happening was like he broke some bone off in my shoulder, and then every time I would do push-ups, it would like just get everything all tore up in there. This is the motherfucker that did it. Yeah, I was so mad at this guy. I was real salty at him for probably like 8 to 10 years. It really wasn't until I started like thinking back on my life and how all this bad stuff had happened and then where I am now and did it and was it really bad, did I realize like this guy did me a huge favor. You think? What do you think? Think he did me a huge favor? Yeah. I don't know, man. I was really pissed. But look, my life has far exceeded anything I could have imagined in the military, right? I get to be here, whether you guys might not like it. I'm here this is my first keynote ever. So, I've got to see people around the world. I have friends around the world everywhere we go. I love the InfoSec community. Everybody takes care of themselves. It really just took in this case, a really long time frame for me to understand what a gift this guy gave to me. Because no way I would have been able to do the things I'm doing now if I had stayed in. So, just maybe something to reflect on later. Like, I didn't get that job. Was that maybe the job I didn't need to have? Or this person broke up with me. Maybe you just needed to be away from that person, right? It's something just to think about. I've been doing a lot of thinking about all these things and my bad things that happened in my life, and were they good or bad? Most of them ended up being good and putting me exactly where I am today, right now. So, a couple more. One of the keys to happiness is to follow your highest excitement whenever you can. So for any given situation, pick the thing that's most exciting to you. So what does that mean, right? You have a couple options in any day. Like most people can say, I can work on this project, or that project. Personally, I like starting projects way more than I like finishing projects. And so like, I really love I'm starting this, it's exciting, it's new. And then I don't always get a lot of enjoyment out of finishing it, but everybody's different, right? So like that's super personal. Like maybe you just enjoy finishing things, but the idea is when you have a choice, do I read a book? Do I write code? Do I walk the dog? I feel like walking the dog. Let's do that. And so like for me, like when you do things that you enjoy, it's effortless. It takes time, flies. How long does it take to write that report when you don't want to write a report? It's like, it's the end of the day and you wrote 3 paragraphs, but then when you're in report writing mode, like you can crank them all out. So the idea behind this is, right, for any of your options, pick the one that you want to do the most and then just do it. Now, that doesn't mean you can't not ever do your work, because sometimes I'd rather just play Xbox, but you still got to do your work, because then you don't have money to like go do the other things. All right, so we're here to turn knowing into experience. So our beings, we're all knowing, but we haven't had all experiences. You're here to experience life. So knowing something isn't the same as experiencing something. So I could read 1,000 books on being an astronaut. I'm not going to actually know what it's like to be in outer space until I'm in outer space. What about, like, how do you explain to non-InfoSec people what, like, really fucking up someone does? How does that feel? Right? I can't explain it. Like, but, when you're peanut butter jelly in time or you're jumping around, like, I can't explain that to my muggle neighbors, right? They don't get it. Same thing, like love. There's a lot of poems about love, but how do you explain the experience of love to somebody? How do you explain how you felt when that person ripped your heart out of your chest and like fucking stomped on it? You can't put that into words. Like there's no words. That's an experience and you have to have it for yourself. And that's why you're here, is to have all those experiences. Thoughts become things. So the idea behind this one is deliberate, focused thought with belief and action will bring you toward the resources, people, and ideas that will change your life. Like maybe someone asks you to do a keynote that you thought you should do, but you really didn't want to, and then you have to do it because they wanted you to do it. Right? So I moved off Python. This is some crazy PowerShell, but there's so much stuff in law of attraction that we'll just import the DLL and then we'll just start exporting functions from it. So, inspired by Spencer's class. Thank you. So a little more on that. So there's a law in psychology that if you form a picture in your mind of what you would like to be, and you keep and hold that picture there long enough, you will soon become exactly as you have been thinking. Corollary to that is when your brain, if you say, okay, there's this water bottle, your brain, if you look at it from like a electrochemically point of view, your brain, if you imagine that water bottle being there, or if it's actually there, it looks the same on some people are nodding, right? Have you guys heard that? Your brain doesn't know the difference of when you're thinking really hard on something and then the thing actually being in front of you. So keep that in mind. That's kind of how this law of attraction thing is supposed to work. And so some other quotes, like if you are unhappy, it's because life is not happening the way you think it should happen. And if it happens the way you think it should happen, you're happy. Oh, okay. So I have control over that, right? And so what stories do you tell yourselves? Like, does everything work out for you, or does everything always not work out for you? Do you always win, or, everything? Now I always tell myself that nothing works out for Chris. And I've started to change that internal story that I tell to like, everything always works out for me. Right? So kind of mumbo jumbo bullshit, right? Yeah. I thought so. I was like, all right, cool. I want to experience things. I want proof. So I had a hypnosis session, and in that hypnosis session, I said, all right, we talked about law of attraction and money. I said, all right, if this shit works, I want the universe to give me $40. $40 is manageable. It's not like winning Powerball, right? $40 you could find $20 in the street, or like get upgraded on a flight or whatever, right? I wanted around $20, 2 separate ways to show me that law of attraction is real. So the next day, flew to South Dakota for Wild West Hacking Fest. Was anybody there? Were people winning in that casino? Right. All right, yeah. Nobody won in that casino. All right, so first night out, if I can hit that, that's $120. Oh, man, we're already there, right? Second night, $550. Third night, $192. My mojo was so strong, this guy who never wins anything was winning shit. You ask him, he never wins anything, but he won. Let's see, that's that same night, $131 for me. Last night we were there, $700. These are all penny slots, by the way. So I ended up coming home with $1,500 on that. Hey, show me that law of attraction works. So this isn't suggesting that you guys all go to Vegas for DEF CON and throw all your money in the slot machine, because that's never worked before. But if you're starting, you got enough time to play with this before you get to Vegas. Maybe Vegas can be the time it can show you that it works, right? It also works in the other direction. One time I said, okay, I want to turn negatives into positives. Don't do that, because I got plenty of opportunity. Let's see, I got a speeding ticket. A good friend of mine told me to basically go fuck off. The hot water heater in the house busted, all in the same week that I decided I wanted to turn negatives into positives. So I I was like, no, let's go back to everything just working out for me. So it's okay to play. So far, none of these are like blue screen to death my universe. I don't think they'll blue screen of death your universe. So, all right, that was a lot of weird shit. So how do we get this back to InfoSec? Y'all still with me? All right, cool. All right, so you exist, right? Therefore you matter. You are worthy enough to exist. So enjoy knowing that you are worthy. We have a problem with imposter syndrome and worthiness. There's really no reason to have that. If you're here, you're supposed to be here. You're supposed to be doing the things you're doing. Just do your best, right? So life provides certain opportunities and choices, yet we allow ourselves to receive, achieve, and enjoy such opportunities only to the extent that we believe ourselves deserving or worthy of them. So that's pretty powerful to me. If I'm sending out the I'm not worthy all the time, I might not feel like I am worthy to have that stuff, but you are. So that's some hacker shit, right? Let's start thinking about changing how we think about ourselves, right? So as adjective as your life is, your perspective is unique and only happening to you right now. No one else is ever going to be you or me right now. No situation, no lineup of events, even if you lived 1,000 times, will put us in right here, right now. This is unique to this. This will never happen again, right? So anyone that makes you feel you're not worthy, you don't need them in your life. Tell them to get the fuck out. They have their own path. You're under no obligation to let it affect or overlap yours. And you're definitely under no obligation to convince them on Twitter that they're wrong and you're right? Just let them do their thing. You don't have to worry about them. This will all be out here. They can pick it up later. but now you're ahead of them, right? Another one, enjoy your life right now. Now's the time to get happy, get right with yourself and others. If you're feeling like super generous, you can reach out to that other person. But you can do this by like gaining control of your day, follow your highest excitement. You're here to turn knowing into experience, enjoy it. And then I was always waiting on the next thing to be the awesome thing. When I was in the Army, when I get promoted, when I get the next duty station, that's when life will be better. InfoSec, man, next pen test, that'll be the one that really seals the deal. Next job, that's when I'll have it. Oh, I get this pay raise, everything will be fine. It hasn't. I spent most of my life, I'm 41, spent most of my life waiting for that next thing to be awesome, and I completely missed all the shit that was going on right now. If you're focused in the past or you're thinking about the future, you're missing what's going on right now. So, something to think about. But it's hard, right? We just focus on the worst case scenario all the time. That's what we get paid to do. It can be done, though. There's plenty of whatever to go around. There's no finite amount of fame, appreciation, respect, money, or love out there. Twitter likes, whatever. Like, you having some doesn't mean that someone else doesn't have some, right? Receive the above freely. What you put out, you get back, right? And so what's kind of like, we eat our own and we should stop, right? Like, InfoSec Twitter is all about just bashing people all day long. You know, there's no reason that we can't all support one another. What do you guys think about that? Yeah, cool. Yep. I mean, just because you don't have an amount of likes per day on Twitter, right? You can give as many as you want. And if Bitcoin is shown as anything, it's like you can create money out of thin air. Right? So like, you having some money doesn't mean I don't get to also have some. There's no, this magic pot of money just keeps growing. So, you know, don't hate just because someone else, you know, sold their company or got a raise or whatever, right? Which is hard. Like, I'm always like, why not me? Hack the universe, right? So it's the most interesting thing we get to fuck with, right? When you're done busting shells, start hacking the universe. You might like it, right? It might work out for you. You have law of attraction, synchronicities, psychic stuff, shit just going better for you in your life. Like the term I like to use for that is like metaphysical fuzzing. I want you to use your hacker mindset to live a better reality. You know, yeah. Know yourself. So we're going to dig into metaphysical fuzzing a little bit. Know yourself. You can do this through self-observation, meditation, vision quests, hypnosis. You can eat drugs because that does work. Right? You shouldn't, right? You usually feel shitty and other things, you know, but Reiki, psychics, whatever works for you in kind of conjunction with your belief system and the things you're ready to experience and ready to explore. But think about writing those internal carbon black rules to alert on negative beliefs or negative behaviors. Take control of your own instruction pointer. You know, your mind is your instruction component. Believe it or not, you can actually start to gain control over that in a way, right? So the idea behind that, like gaining control of your mind, is external events don't control your internal feelings. Your thoughts, beliefs on those external things, especially whether you feel like they're true or not, actually control how you feel. So do you think they're true? So, and then kind of the quote for that is, life is lived from the outside in, but rather than the inside out. Or I completely jacked that up. Life is not lived from the outside in, but rather from the inside out, which means your mind is actually interpreting everything you see. So, right? So how does that work? So this is how I used to feel like things work, like this external thing. Like, you called me an asshole. I feel bad. I want to fight you, right? This is how I think I used to feel like how things worked. That's not actually how it works. People say you make me feel, but no one outside of you can actually make you feel anything. What we focus on is what we feel. And every feeling stems from an internal thought or belief, right? So how that works is you have this external stimulus. It causes a thought. Thoughts create feelings, and those feelings depend on what we think, whether we think they're true or not. And the body also gets addicted. We have these scripts that run, but your body also gets addicted to feeling a certain way. If you know anybody that's like super stressed out, anybody super stressed out, does everything always make that person be stressed out, even something that shouldn't make you feel stressed out? Your body becomes addicted chemically to feeling a certain way. So if you're always stressed, or you're professionally grumpy, or you're whatever, you're angry, the body has a homeostasis of that, and it wants you to feel like that. And there's a lot of science behind. The brain sees this thing, it releases chemicals that go to that part of the body to make you feel a certain way. So The idea is, like, as hackers, we should start to think about understanding this process, right? How thoughts become feelings and how feelings become actions. So when we have a feeling, we can either emotionally react to that feeling or we can rationally respond to that feeling, right? If someone that gets triggered, they are emotionally reacting to things. They don't even do any thought of like, oh, that person's called me an asshole, I'm mad, let's go fuck them up on Twitter, right? Did we think about that? Was it true? Was it not true? And our prisons are full of plenty of people that like they emotionally react to something. They have an action that's not great, and then the outcome is what they call a problem, right? Like they're in prison because they emotionally reacted to something, right? And they have this vicious loop because we don't understand how it works, right? So, make sure I got everything, yeah. We can't control every thought that pops into our head, but we can control the thoughts that we focus on. And especially we can start to control, if we start working at it, how that feeling turns into action. So that first part's quite a bit harder, but it can be done. That second part's quite a bit easier, right? So what I would say you could think about, how you could think about this in hacker terms is like, we can start to reprogram this section of the thought to feeling piece. Start to say, okay, when someone says this to me, I feel this way. Let's start to reprogram how I think about it or how I feel and how that is true. Or just fire up that burp proxy, right? And we want to intercept that request before it gets to our feeling. And the same thing from feeling to action, rather than getting pissed at somebody, maybe I'll just change that response to like a hug or man, you're having a bad day. What was making you feel so bad? So rather than lashing out, maybe we could start to give more hugs, do the Jason Street vibe on it or something, right? All right. So lastly, you can always go back to how you were. Like any tool that you check out on GitHub, like if it's not working for you, just dump it, right? So I want you just to play, explore, have fun. If it's not working for you, you can always go back to how you were. And so today, I want you guys to make today the next awesome thing. So don't wait for tomorrow. Make today the next awesome thing. And then like your exercise for today is just to fire up that mental burp proxy and try to intercept and change a thought or before it becomes a feeling or a feeling before it becomes an action. Think you can try that? All right. So that's the GDoc that it's like 20 pages of references material for all of this deck. So there's plenty of things to like pivot on and go play with and see where I got to this and a lot of videos and books. This is all the people that I had to endure iterations of this talk. Sorry. So Twitter is actually the best way to get a hold of me. I have open DMs, and there's another link to the doc if you guys need it. Thank you.